Hey guys, it's Dark Siege, and I want to go over accessories for Siege Commanders. This came up, I've made a couple of videos so far, and I talked about some of my DPS, and I was asked, why do I rock the ring and the horn? And I think, like many of you can relate, who are not just full Siege out of the bat, is I already had it. I was running 3 other marches, and they each had the ring and horn. And right now I have 2 full Siege marches, and each have a ring and horn. And it was just that natural progression. I already had it. I think they're awesome, and I wouldn't change it. So let's talk about the horn first. The horn, I think, is a must. The horn, with Siege Commanders, they're a little slow on the first cycle, and the rage just takes a little bit. You're a little faster with Margaret because she has a rejuvenation, but either way, any Siege March, I would say, you would do very well to have the horn. Okay, and the horn obviously has a 30% chance to gain 50 rage. And just by looking at old content of YouTube creators, it's much, much better than drums. And we'll get to drums in just a second. Okay, let's talk about the ring. So I think many people, when you're trying to go high end, you either have a ring or you have the Eliminating Plume. Again, like I said, I already had the ring, so I am not changing it. I could use my mats and legendary resources for better things at this point than to switch it out. And what it does, obviously, ring is 10% chance to gain 50% bonus to damage for 2 seconds. Now, the Ring of Doom can happen at any time. It could happen with white damage, just regular damage, or on your special skill. And I bring that up because Eliminating Plume does not. So Ring, right off turn 1, it can proc for you. You can get that usage. And I want you to think back on how are your fights. For me, I've had very long ones when I meant like altar fights, or we're really like in a push-pull situation where it's just a long fight. But I'll be honest, outside of altar fights, I've had more short-term fights. Just a couple hits and you're out. A couple hits and you're out. And so in that type of scenario, ring is what you want, right? And so I'm very happy with my ring. So now let's go to Eliminating Plume. Let's look at that bad boy. Okay, whenever the wearer deals direct range direct damage or range smite damage, it has a 50% chance to increase the damage by 30%. This Eliminating Plume only will go off on your special skill. And so I mention that because I don't have Immolating Plume. Somebody sent me some reports. I asked them a while ago, and I went through the reports. And at first, I thought like, "Hey man, your stuff's not proccing the Eliminating Plume." And then I went through and I noticed they were short fights. And he sent me a bunch of short fights. I go, "Hey, do me one where you're just in a long fight and send it to me." And then I saw that it went off. And when it goes off, it's a lot of damage, right? And I'm just very specific scenario of, hey, he sent me a couple reports. Again, Immolating Plume, I'm sure does a ton of damage, and it's good. The only caveat is it only goes off on your special skill, and if you do short fights, it's not that good. Overall, though, I think you're fine to get it. I don't think it's one of those like, oh no, I need to get rid of it. No, I'm going to assume it does great. It has a lot of DPS. It puts out a lot of damage. If you do Immolating Plume, my suggestion is then you're going to have Horn, right? I don't think you should have a ring and Immolating Plume. I mean, when it goes off and they both proc, I'm sure it's crazy, but it just takes so much longer to get there because you're not using the Horn with the Rage. Just that's what I suspect. I could be totally wrong on that. Let's look at the next one, Dagger. Dagger has some uses, and it's my understanding, and I don't have one, that Dagger is really good when you have multiple marches using a Dagger. And in my little YouTube research, if this one, like you get it normal and it doesn't expertise, it's a 30% chance to reduce the target's health by 5%. Stacks up to 3 times. If it procs and it goes to 7.5%, 8%, whatever it procs to, then it doesn't match up with just a 5%. It's like a different category, and it won't stack with anything but its own category. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have the 5%, the 5%ers are great with each other and they'll stack, but outside of that, they won't stack with the other side, like if it's 7%, 7.5%, whatever it is. So I think the dagger has a use. I think it's good. I just would prefer a ring or horn. That's just me. Again, whatever you prefer, knock yourself out, have a good time. Drums. So what I've seen by some respected YouTube people is that you need like 4 or 5 pairs of drums in the field of like pretty much one of all your marches, you know, up to 4 or 5 of them. And then it's like off the hook. It just, you get so much rage from it. It's really impactful. Outside of that, it's my understanding it doesn't do that good. So with that information, do what you want. So from the legendary, I would say that's kind of where I would leave it. I don't know how much else, anything else really works. Some of these I think were obviously designed in the early game, and I don't think they come over too well now. You know, with the end game and Season of Conquest, Pendant of Eternal Night, 5% more skill damage of all types. I just remember watching like an old Chisgo video which said like it's not that good, right? Based off his video of 3 years ago, I'm still going in that direction, right? Greatest Glory, 5% normal damage of all types, right? You could have an argument for Smite, but I think, I don't know. I like the ring more. I don't know how much Greatest Glory does with Smite. It could be off the hook. So do your own research and knock yourself out. But the other ones from here, I don't think they're all that good. Let's go into some epic. Let's go to Delane's Amulet, right? And so if you're fighting from distance, the only type of damage you're taking is counterattack damage. And if this reduces your 5% less counterattack damage, then it's impactful. If you have nothing else and you can get Delane's Amulet, awesome. If you ran the flag in Delane's Amulet, I think you're doing okay. Not like out of control, but like, yeah, awesome, good enough, right? So that's where I would put that bad boy. Way better than Silent Trial. Silent Trial to me, because look at it from a range perspective, you're not getting hit, right? You're only taking counter damage, right? So Silent Trial to me, unless you have, you know, people in the field, it'll help other marches in the field. You just don't get that direct impact to yourself. So yes, does it help? Yes, it helps other people. And if you have other marches in the field, absolutely will help you out. And the last one I'll talk about is the flag. And let's talk about march speed. To me, march speed, awesome. I think if you're running around in the field, and if you're slower and people catch up to you and you take damage, then that's less troops in the field you can use to fight somebody. So in some 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you can make an argument that the march speed helps you do damage because you're not getting caught flat-footed and reduced troops because somebody hit you multiple times. If you buy that argument, I got a bridge for sale. But I honestly think it works. I want to go back to ring and horn real quick. And, you know, I'm going to go, wow, ring horn. And there's one thing I forgot to mention. If you are just a siege, I guess the question is, when you look at these accessories, some of the questions you have to ask yourself is, are these accessories just for siege, or do you share them with field marches, right? So if you go out and it's like an altar fight, you're only taking one at a time. And so you take your best march, and siege happens to be your best march. Awesome. There's times when you're on the losing end and you're in a small little territory in KVK with your fort, like your castle, and you know there's like 20 of you, and maybe you have one flag up, and you guys are defending, and you're mostly just cheeseburgering. It's really hard to use siege in that scenario. So maybe you have a ring and a horn that you're not using for siege, and you're going to use it for a field march. And so in that case, Immolating Plume doesn't transfer over to your other marches. If you're just purely siege, then you can forget this argument. But if you have other marches in the field, and I honestly think, in addition to siege, you should have one strong field march that you can cheeseburger, go fight, and go run around with the troops if it's just not, if it's particularly too dangerous for siege. You need that one march and at least one pair of ring and horn. Like if you're full siege, have at least one pair of ring and horn, and you're good to go. I'm also thinking long term. If I keep playing this game for a couple more years and more siege marches come out, man, I'm gonna proc a ring and a horn soon enough, right? So, I'm already 3 into it. 2 more, and I'm guaranteed proc, right? To expertise that thing. So, just a couple of things to think about. All right, so I went through the legendaries that I thought were applicable, epic that I thought could use a couple 2 cents, and the flag. So really think about, do you share any of your accessories when you're siege? Typically you don't have this argument, right? Typically you have your field marches and you just go out. You don't share it really, right? It's like calves are for calves, infantry is for infantry, archers for archers, right? But this is a little different. If you're not full siege and you want to have one full siege march, you're just doing one march only and you have field commanders, ring and horn, like no question. If you plan to share, that accessory. If it's like, yeah, man, my field marches already are decked out, go horn, eliminating plume, you're not going to go wrong. Like eliminating plume is really, really good. It does a lot of damage. I don't have one. It's just what other people have told me. So I'm going to stick with that. But I don't think you go wrong with ring and horn. At least so far, I've been doing great. And maybe if I had eliminating plume, it would just be out of control better. But I'm good. I'm happy with it. So I'm going to stick with it. So hopefully that's clear as mud. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll answer them the best I can. I just want to say again, this is my perspective. I was asked a couple of times in chat, why do I run ring and horn? So I figured to make a video and maybe add some perspective and give some direction. I don't think you go wrong with ring and horn. I don't think you go wrong with eliminating plume and horn. Like if you're looking for like, what's the A setup, right? What's your best setup? I think you're good with Dagger does great. Obviously, eliminating Plume, I think, is in that A category as well, right? So, all right, guys, I wish you the best of luck out there, fighting, being sieged, ripping it up. If you can, at least put a like. If you want to subscribe, it helps me out. I'm a brand new content creator, so anything helps. All right, guys, range rocks. Have a good day.